Hey, this is Roger Handgriff, and welcome to our week on cash flow budgeting. Now, in this video, I have a couple of goals. One is to explain to you what the cash flow budget is and how it's organized. But number two, my goal is to show you how to use Microsoft Excel. That's what we want to learn in our Ag Finance course, and this is one of the ways that we'll learn about it, and that's by working through what we call a cash flow budget. So I want you to learn about how to write formulas and how to link information from one sheet to the next, or how even to use multiple sheets. And so that's what we're also going to learn here in our week. All right, so let me get out of the way and let's begin talking about a cash flow budget, how it's used, and how you organize the information to get it done. Let's take a look. All right, so I've got an assignment for you here, and this example that I have right now today is going to be the same example or same homework that you will do this week as well. So it kind of gives you really the key to how the homework should work out, but you need to actually do the work yourself, and so that's what this example is all about. All right, so when you pull up your file, you're going to see right away a sheet here that should open. That's the info sheet. Every time you do a cash flow budget, you're looking at base information that you need to know to get started. And so I've got this example here. Our example is a business that sells custom fed beef in a certain way, brings in the cattle weighing 750 pounds in total, brings in a certain amount of pounds, and then sells those pounds in the next quarter or during the same quarter across the year. You can also see in our cash flow budget, we've broken everything into quarters. Cash flow budgets are useful because they help a business look at where they are today and then where they will go in the future. And usually it's based on some period of time. Not usually 1 year. That's too much information. But you can do it on quarterly, or really it's mostly done monthly. I'm doing quarterly here to keep it simple. And a cash flow budget is kind of a business tool that really helps the business say something like, I am starting with $51,000 of cash plus $191,000 from investors. Is that enough cash to make all of this work out? Remember, in quarter one, we're going to be spending some money, but we won't be able to collect any income till the second quarter. Many times in agriculture, farms or ranches might spend money January and February and March and April and maybe even May and not really make a dime of income at all. And then finally, as they start harvesting or selling crops, then they finally start bringing in some income. But to make that work out, you kind of need to have a plan, and that's what a cash flow budget is an organized set of inflows of money and outflows of money spread across some period of time, like months or quarters, to kind of look at, is there enough cash flow to operate? Now, after that, then you start looking at things like profitability and liquidity and solvency and balance sheets. But really the first step is called a cash flow budget. So to get that done, you always need some base information. So as I mentioned before, it looks like we're selling some custom fed cattle of a certain volume. We are buying those same cattle earlier in the process and getting them up to that higher weight to sell. Let's see, we are also spending money to get that done. And I've got these organized as the cost per pound of gain. So all of these 40 cents, 15 cents, and 15 cents are these expenses across these periods. And you can see we're actually kind of raising cattle the whole time. It's just in the fourth quarter, we don't bring any new ones. We're just getting rid of the ones that we had at that particular time from the third quarter to the fourth. And then you've also got some expenses that are just fixed. And fixed expenses could be insurance, land rent, lots of things. In this case, borrowing money to own certain assets to run the operation are the fixed cost. And in this case, we got $375,000 in total assets. But to get this going, I need $100,000 down, probably to house maybe the facility of where they're going to be on the land. And then that means that I'm going to pay $100,000 down in the first quarter right away. And then I'm going to rock along all year. And finally, I'll have to make a payment at the end. And that's really all we need to kind of get going in this simple cash flow example. Now, step two is in Excel, we try to use tabs to kind of separate some steps so it's easier for us to look at. The revenue and expense sheet is where I kind of organize revenue and expenses using whatever info I have. So I kind of bring that information, calculate it, and bring it to this sheet. Once I get this whole sheet filled out, I understand what's on each of these rows, and when it happens, then I'm able to take the next step to the cash flow budget. Now, to help you, I've gone ahead and split this cash flow budget out with all of the details as far as what goes where, and then we'll talk about those as we get to this section. All right, let's go back to the info sheet. There's a few things we can calculate right here on this sheet to make it simple. Let's look at income. Well, it looks like over here is we're selling $1.20 for every pound. And in quarter one, if I were to write a formula, we're selling nothing in quarter one, so there's really nothing here to write. Let's go to quarter two. What are we selling in quarter two? Well, in Microsoft Excel, to write a formula, and you could do it by hand, of course, but to write a formula, which is the way we want to do it, we're going to press the equals key. This equals key, you can see show up right there, is kind of what tells Excel, hey, this is not a number. This is going to be a formula that uses other numbers to calculate a value. And you can go around and just start picking cells. So you can say, well, in quarter two, looks like we sell 95,000 pounds, and then I use the multiplying symbol, the asterisk here, times that price of $1.20. So notice how it's looking at the cell D4 and A6 and is multiplying those. So if I press enter, there is the number. That's $sign. I'll use that format. And that's going to mean I need to spread that out a little bit so I can widen it like this, or you can just double click and it kind of fits it for you. So that's 114,000 we will sell in quarter two. Now quarter three is the same idea, but instead of just writing it all over again, another formula, I can do a shortcut here. I've already written this formula once. In fact, if I want to see what is in that formula, up here in the top of your Excel, the f of x, it shows you what the formula is. But if you just double click on it, it shows you what it is right in the cell. So this formula is written. If I were to copy this and put it right over here, what it's going to do is move everything over. So instead of that being a D, that will become a C, or a D. It will become an E, sorry. Instead of that being an A, it would become a B. So everything moves over. Now the rows aren't changing, so the 4 and the 6 will stay the same. But when you're moving from the left to the right, it will move from A to B or from D to E. Now, in this case, I don't mind that. I don't mind that D4 right here, that's those pounds, it needs to become the next one. That's no problem. But if I look at A6, it doesn't need to become there to there because that's just text. So what you do is, to stop a formula from changing, you put a dollar symbol in front of anything you don't want to change. So in this case, I don't want the A to become a B, so I put a $sign in front of it. Just hit enter. It doesn't change this formula at all, but it lets me now copy that and paste it across these cells, and then it does all the math for me. So if I double click on one it calculated for me, you can see that it moves over and grabs the quarter 3 pounds, but it still leaves A6 the same. And if I come over here to this one, it automatically grabbed that quantity above it, but it still left the $1.20 the same. And so that's a simple formula that couldn't be written to help me out and figure out. That's the money we're going to make. What about buying the livestock? Well, we start right away with buying a bunch of cattle that weigh about 75,000 pounds in total shipment. So I press again equals, grab that, multiply it, times that price, get myself an answer, double click. I don't want the A to change, but I don't mind that C10 becoming the next volume. Now there's another way you can copy and paste. See the little box here on the bottom? Little plus key? That means copy and paste all the way across at the same time. Let it go, and it does it for me as well. So that goes to 93,000. That goes to 69,000. And then, of course, in fourth quarter, we're selling nothing. So it gave me an answer of nothing because nothing's being sold. So writing formulas right here on this sheet is a handy way. Now I need to look at a few others. What about feed? Well, again, same idea, equals. My cattle are going to gain about that much in total, and I've got a feed contract that says they're going to give me the feed to get that done, and that's going to cost me 40 cents a pound. So that is going to be, double click, 20,000 pounds times the 0.40 cents is going to be dollar symbol, $8,000. Excuse me. All right, so $8,000 is what that one is. Now let's double click and look at that formula. In this case, I'm going to copy down from this row here to the next row and the next row. So let me move over here. That's row 15. So I'm going to go to 16 and 17. As I do that, I want these prices to change. So I want A15 to become A16 and A17. But the C I don't want to change. So I'm going to put a dollar symbol in front of the 18 now, because as I go down, it won't change to 18 and 19 and so on. So now I can just do the copy paste and kind of double check my work here, and it looks like those are the right numbers. Now, what's also nice about what I've done here is I can look at this and say, well, you know what I could have done? I need to copy also not just down, but across. So in this case, I would come in here and put a 15, a dollar sign in front of, the A. And that way, when I copy down, so let me do it again, copy, paste down. All right, it's got the same numbers. That's perfect. But now I can copy all three of these and copy across the quarters, and it does it automatically for me as well. And so you can kind of spot check yourself and just double click on these and say, is that right? I mean, is that the amount multiplied times the 15,000? I think so. So there they all are. That's what's going to cost me every quarter. As far as the loan, the fixed cost down here, I think this is already spelled out for me. There's the cash down in the first quarter. I'm going to have to spend that. And then I don't make any payments until the very end, which is already there. And those are there. All right, so it's simple things that you can do to write formulas, and hopefully this part will make sense for you here. It's simply just a multiplication of a cost or a value of cost or expense, and multiply times some volume that you needed to know to get that done. All right, revenue and expense sheet. I've kind of got the right questions here. So what are we going to sell in beef? Well, we've already calculated it. So what we can do, this is called a link. You can just simply say equals, and I don't need a fancy formula here. Whatever is in, let me go back to the info page, whatever is in our first quarter of sales, which is nothing, but hit enter there, will give me that answer. And then that's a formula, equals info C6. Well, that is what is there, but if you just copy and paste that across, it brings over the numbers we need. All right, the purchase of beef equals, we've already done this work. Looks like we're buying them right there, 86,250, then it goes to 107,69 and then 0. So let's click quarter one, hit enter, and then just carry that across those cells. Feed equals, we already did feed, supplies, and vet. Let's go look, see if it's in the same order. Feed, supplies, and vet. Perfect. So that's how much we're going to spend in feed, the quarter one. And then you can just go across that and then go all the way down and get those. All right, investors right away in the first quarter equals, we are going to be bringing in $191,000 in investment cash. We are going to, actually, let me back up. That should be there. So sometimes if you write a formula and put it in the wrong place, you can actually just grab it and push it right where it needs to go. Let's see, in beginning cash equals, that was 50,000. And then let's see, principal and interest payments are actually not done until here at the end. So I'm going to go here equals principal. Make sure I'm on the right row. Principal payment. And then right below it. So no need to go back. Just copy the formula down. Because remember, this is not 49,000. This is whatever that info and cell is. And the reason why we like this, if we got to this stage and we were working and we went back to our info and said, you know what, man, turns out this guy wants to contract to us. If we do this at a certain rate and we sign a second-year contract, he'll do this at $1.07. So if I just change that price, which was used in these formulas, if I just change that price, that alters all of those, which at the same time alters all of these. And so you can see these are all linked together. The info sheet is really where we kind of are able to write some formulas using basic information and then carry that information forward, and I returned it back to what it was. So we move forward from there. All right, finally, the cash flow budget, the focus of our assignment here. Again, cash flow budgets are broken into certain periods of time, usually less than a year. This is quarterly, so that makes sense. They also are organized and really with probably, I should say 3 categories. You can say 4 if you look at it this way, but let's say 3 categories. The first one is inflows of cash, which is going to be from investors and beginning money and sales. And that's going to give us number 1. In fact, I'll put that in there. Number 1 is cash from operations. Now, after that, we need to look at where we're going to spend the money. And that's going to be outflows. And we're going to buy the beef, we're going to feed them, supplies, vet medicine, and then you're going to end up with basically a total cash for, I'm going to put number 2 there, our operation. All right. Number 3 is going to be that sometimes we need cash for assets. So I'm going to put in number 3 there. And that's the down money that we need to buy the assets or the loan payments we've got to make. And then finally, number 4 is, so at the very end of here, you got net cash flow. And that's simply going to be what is available, so this whole first section here, minus what you've got to spend it on, minus what you've got to pay to get assets into your business, and then finally equals net cash flow. All right, let's bring over the information. Pretty easy to do from here. Let's just press equals, and let's go back to the revenue and expense sheet. That's the sheet right before here, and it looks like we've got beginning cash of $50,000. Investors equals, investors right away give us $191,000 to get rolling. Then we have sales, so I'm going to press equals, and I'm going to go over here, and of course the sales are nothing right away. I'm going to select that number 1 quarter though, so that I can just drag that across all the other quarters, and there they are. All right, next is going to be the outflows for our, available from operations. That's here. Available from operations is going to be equals. So what did you start with? Plus, what did investors give you? Plus, what did you sell? Now you can write formulas like this, or since they're all in the same order, we can actually use Excel to help us. They actually have formulas already built. Equals sum is a common one. You can just highlight everything and it does it for you. Not only does equal sum work like that, where you actually type it, you can see the formulas start showing up that are possible. You can actually just use some of the keys up here, and there is an auto sum, this summation key, and it's trying to figure out what do you want to add, and you're like, nah, I want to add all that stuff. So same idea. And once again, you can copy all the way across the quarters to look at that. All right, next is the outflows. So we've got our available money. What about money we need to spend? Well, let's go press equals. Let's run over here to the revenue and expense sheet, and they're all in the same order, which helps us. So we just choose that first cell there. We can go all the way across for all the quarters, and then we can even go all the way down. Oops, right there, all the way down across all those other categories as well. All right, now total cash for operations is just going to be a sum, so I grab this, and it's going to go ahead and grab all the ones above it, which that's the right grouping. Hit enter. Again, that formula is written once, copy and paste it across. So now that's what the money spending is going to look like. So in the first quarter right away, you can see we got $241,000. We're going to spend $100,000, so that's not too bad. Well, in the second quarter, we're going to spend $125, and we only have $114 coming in. So we'll have to work our way through how we're going to handle that. All right, come down here to number 3, net cash. What do we need down for our assets? Equals, go back to that sheet, and I'd already looked at some of that, and it's on the info sheet, I guess. There it is, $100,000 down we have to pay to get started on our loan. Principal and interest, that payment doesn't happen until way at the end, so go over here to the fourth quarter, grab those right there. Principal right underneath it is interest. They're there. So total cash flows for assets. What do we have to spend? So again, just equals sum, however you want to do that, and just total those. All right, run that formula all the way across. Got them. All right, net cash flow, here's the final one, equals. Well, this is how much is available minus this is how much we need to operate. Minus here's how much we need for our assets. So it looks like we got a little left over there. Now, before I go and do these next quarters, I do need to look at what we began with. And so we end with quarter 1 with $40,750 in this case. But quarter 2 doesn't start with 0. Now, of course, it doesn't start with 50 anymore. Actually, your very beginning cash equals of the second quarter, of the second month, the second period, is always equal to the ending from the previous. So I hit that. And now I can come across here and do a little bit of formula copying. So that is the formula every time to calculate cash flow. And then up here is the formula every time to talk about what you begin with. And so there is our complete cash flow, and it looks like it could be right. Looks like we're starting off with a little bit of extra cash. Then we have expenses, but we've got to put a huge amount down, so that kind of hits us. However, we carry that over. That's part of your available cash. And so it looks like we got 154,000 available. 125 is what we got to spend. So actually we end up a little bit with this 125, and that's because we just barely have enough to cover that. So a little bit, 29,000 extra. That goes up here, come down here, built back up to 171 worth of cash available now, but we dropped in our expenses now of 80 based on what we're feeding. So that jaws it to jump up. Yeah, 91 goes to here. 180 is now available, and we're not spending near as much because we're not buying any more cattle. And so you can see that it does jump way up. Now we do have some loan payments to pay, but that still gets us up. Now, how do you know if this is right? Well, what you always do, I think, is do a total column. Like it represents all of these quarters in one. And then you look at these things individually. So beginning cash equals, well, we started at 50. Investors, well, I'm going to hit sum here and add up all the months. We only got investors once, and that's where that money came from. What did we sell? Well, auto sell across all the months. That's what we sold, 347,000. And then you just copy this subtotal formula is available, and that's how much is totally available from all year. Now, we were curious if the months were okay, and we got a little low here in the second quarter, but not too bad. Let's go down here and look at this. Again, auto sum. We bought all the way across this deal, 263,000 in beef, bunch of other categories, total operations. We spent 316,000. Come across here, we needed some cash down to get going. We needed a loan payment each time. Same thing for there. This is our available. Come over here, total that up. So that's the available. And then we just take the same formula that does net cash flow, but look at it on a yearly basis. And these two answers should always be the same. If they're not, then something in here and here don't jive, and it usually means you got a problem on one of the two. So this does match for us. So that is what you're looking for in a cash flow budget. Number one, to see if we've got enough money each period to make it, which our answer is yes. And then does the total match the quarters in this case, or the months calculations. Now, all of this is your planning sheet, and this is what your homework is all about. Now, the tool, the value of all this is if you were to look at your info sheet and then kind of go through and say, you know what, we're having trouble contracting these cattle. That's what's going to be our trouble here. $1.15, we're going to have to give a premium to these buyers to get the right kind of cattle for us. We may have to give $1.24 for these, 1.24. So I'm just going to change that price right here, and that's going to change my bottom line. We're also looking at vet supplies and medication costs have really gone up. We're looking at that being double at 30 cents a pound. And then when it comes down here, we've talked to the bank, and 100,000 is not really quite what they really need. They really are looking for more like $150,000 down based on our current market. So these are things that I changed really easy right here. Those flowed right over to the rest of this spreadsheet, and they flow right over into this cash flow. And these changes I just made, you can see what happens. We can't do this in the quarter 1 and 2. They are short of money. Now overall, across the whole year, it makes it. But quarter 1 and quarter 2, you can't go like this to get that to work. So we go back to our contractors and our negotiations and go, look, you know what? We're going to actually only be able to do the 100,000 down on this. And so we could say, well, that's 100,000 down. We can't do the 150,000. Maybe we go back to the banker and find some better collateral to give them a little bit of a ability to let us borrow that and not put that down. So we're going to go back to 100,000 on it. And does that enough? Is that enough to help us? Let me go back to revenue expense sheet. The cash flow, sorry. And you know what? Just that one thing alone gets us back where we're liquid. It also puts more money in our pocket because we're not paying that extra 50,000 out there. But overall, this thing cash flows now. So the stuff that I did here is an example. So let me go and remove those and get those back to where we were. And so that is where we were. That is kind of the answer you have. And I hope this video gives you a good summary of, number one, what is a cash flow budget? And number 2, how do we calculate it using Microsoft Excel? Your homework is the same assignment here, so you've got some kind of key to where you're supposed to go. My task for you is, can you do this in Excel yourself? So make sure you take a look at that. Let me know if you need anything. The message that goes out this week will let you know when I'm available for more detailed help, or let me know anytime. Take a look also at your week to make sure you follow everything in the week, but this is a major part of that. So hopefully this video helps. Thanks.